What about a nation? Is there a difference? And the other way around, Palestine, is that a state or nation or both?
Very good. That's a very key question. Let me talk about both as much as I know about them. I actually am a co-author of or co-editor of an oral history book about Palestine and Palestinians. We purposely called it Homeland. If you look in the Balfour Declaration, you're familiar with the Balfour Declaration? 1917, Lord Balfour of the UK issued this letter to the Zionist organization, and for some reason people believed it took the weight of law, and basically in that letter he said, Jewish community you can have, or Jewish people you can have a homeland in Palestine. At the time the British were having a mandate here, they were in charge here. They used, I mean, it's great when you're studying history, a lot of times, because none of us like history when we're studying it. Usually we have to graduate and go into the real world to understand that history actually means something. That's at least how I dealt with it. I hated history, I just wanted to get through the classes. And then I got to this conflict and I said, wait a minute, I have to go back to all those books I ignored because it turns out it has a meaning today. If you take a document like the Balfour Declaration, which is like a 70-word document, it's a very short thing to read, you will see that even Lord Balfour, this British head of government, actually used the word homeland. He promised the Jewish people a homeland in Israel. Now, if you ask most people who don't get involved in too much history, you're going to say, homeland state is the same. I wanted to know why the word homeland was there, because we were researching our book, what we should call it. It turns out, if you go to the minutes of the discussion that were there in the parliament or wherever, in the British government at the time, there was a huge debate. The Zionist organization was pressuring the UK government to use the word state. And the UK government, being rather shrewd, as they usually are, defined it as a homeland and stood their ground. That means a lot. Because if it's a homeland, which means it's a safe refuge for a battered people who are coming out of Eastern Europe in the 40s and 50s, I have no problem with it. If it's a state to be built on the ruins of another people, I have a big problem with it. When I was driving, I'm not allowed to drive inside Israel because I'm a Palestinian resident. I was driving with somebody who's a Palestinian woman who is an Israeli citizen. While we were driving north, almost every sign that's in Hebrew of a village or of a city is taken from the original Palestinian name of that village or city that was destroyed. It's shocking. It's shocking. But I'm getting off topic. So on the Israeli side, what they were promised, even though I don't really believe promises, I don't believe states can give a letter to somebody and say, you know, that state is yours, that state is yours. But if we wanted to follow the Israeli thinking, they were promised a homeland. How they defined that into a state without borders, I'll never know. It's a historic injustice, in my opinion. And there needs to be a historical reconciliation today. On the Palestinian side, the story is a little bit different. What the Israelis will tell you, this was never a state, so how can you be asking for a state? That's only half true. At the time of the mandates, you're familiar with the League of Nations and how it converted into the United Nations. When that process was happening, some areas of the world were issued mandates. So countries of power would take over a part of the world, France, the UK, and others did so. And there were three kinds of territories that the mandates were sent to deal with. One were areas that they had no idea what was, the UN had no idea what was there. So they sent the mandate, go figure it out, basically. There were other areas that were ready for statehood. And the mandate, what's a mandate? It's a terms of reference. The terms of reference for the second type of mandate was superpower, go make it happen. They meet all the requirements for statehood. And I forget what the third one was. The Palestinian one, the land of the Palestine, historic Palestine, was the second kind of mandate. It was one that it was defined as having all of the requirements for statehood. The terms of reference for the mandated power was to go administratively make it happen. So it's a little bit different.
To continue the discussion here, the difference between the concept of state as a territorial concept and nation includes who lives there or belonging to the nation. It means that the refugees from 1948 might belong to a nation, but not to a state.
Could be.
And that's why the concept is rather important for the future discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay. So,
Yeah. There's actually a distinction now. I mean, remember when I said that we've been sold, I think we've been sold a false product.
yes.
We've been sold that the only solution here is two states. And you know in a horse race how they place these blinders on the horse so it doesn't see what's on both sides? It's as if the international community put blinders on the Palestinian side. And they said, just keep looking forward, the only solution here is two states. Well, when two states is failing in front of us, which is only recent, I would actually put a date on it. I would put a date of last September when we went to the UN and it was refused. The Palestinians removed the blinders. And they started saying, well, let's see, what else is out there? What other options are out there? I'm actually involved in two efforts. One is at Lund University. They're studying the concept of parallel sovereignty. What's parallel sovereignty? If this is all of Palestine, Israel, Jordan River, Mediterranean Sea, that the Israelis take their territory, all of it, today they're in control of all of it. They take all of it to the UN and ask for that to be their borders. And the Palestinians take all of it and go and request that the UN accept a state on the exact same borders. So both can claim territorial sovereignty. But within that territory, the governance of how it happens, who you're affiliated with, is a different layer. That's a new kind of thinking. That we want to deal with maybe provinces, you know, like Brooklyn, New York City bureaus, where different bureaus are within the same territorial entity. There's many creative ways to do it. The other entity issue that I'm involved in, assuming that two states is no longer practical, there's actually a group of about 10 Israelis and 10 Palestinians who are actually discussing what does historical reconciliation mean. Because up until now, we've been talking about solution. As if it's a computer program, we put in the equation and a solution comes out. Here we're talking about something different. What has to happen for both sides to say, the past is pretty bad, let's look forward? That's historical reconciliation. In that discussion, we're talking about, for example, refugees. Maybe the refugees will physically come back, for example, to a Palestinian state, for example. But maybe their rights are maintained for the land that they lost, the books that they lost, whatever assets that they had inside Israel. We're only now starting to become creative about how to use this terminology maybe as a way out. But it goes back to the basics that I spoke about. At the end of the equation, we cannot say a solution, any kind of solution, without talking about refugees. That's what the Israelis are saying. They're saying, we're going to make a deal with you. We're willing to make a deal with you, but the red line is the refugees. No refugee can come back home. Why? Why? Why should we accept that as a reality? But they're very powerful in their PR. They allow all of us to accept that Israel is a state with borders. They don't have borders, and I challenge anyone to tell me otherwise. But they've allowed us to accept that. So we need to be able to be honest with ourselves about the definition of these very important words. A state means a state with borders. It's a requirement. If you don't have it, then I can question your validity as a state. And until it's resolved, just like the Israeli government wants to have a right in Jericho, I think we have an equal or a more valid right to Haifa or to Nazareth, which was Palestinians historically. Until it's resolved, both can have their claims. And I would say our claim is a little bit more valid, historically looked at it.
How would you describe the economic situation of the Palestinian society?